Have you ever looked up at the stars and wondered what's actually moving around up there? I'm not talking about aliens or sci-fi stuff. I'm talking about the massive, billion-dollar game of cat and mouse happening right over our heads. It's pretty wild, honestly. There is this company called Quantum Space, and they just dropped a massive bombshell. They're planning to go public through a merger worth $1.2 billion. Yeah, you heard me right. Billion with a B. And they're not just building random satellites. They are building machines meant to hunt, watch, and survive in the harsh environment of space for the US military. So, who is behind this? Well, the guy running the show as CEO is Jim Bridenstine. You might remember him. He was the NASA administrator back during the Donald Trump administration. He's teamed up with Cam Ghaffarian, a longtime space investor who actually founded the company back in 2020. They've got some serious ambition, and they are moving fast. The core of their business is something they call the Ranger spacecraft. Think of it like a scout that can actually move around and change orbits whenever it needs to. Why is that a big deal? Because space is huge. If you're stuck in one orbit, you're basically a sitting duck. But the Ranger? It's designed to be refuelable. It can stay up there for a long time, hovering in high orbits to conduct surveillance. It's honestly kind of intimidating when you think about the technology involved, but it's fascinating. They've already locked down a spot in a massive, $6.2 billion effort called the Andromeda contract. This isn't some small side project. This is all about space-based reconnaissance for the government. They're currently involved in 6 different development programs. It sounds like they're trying to become the go-to provider for national security operations in orbit. But here is where things get a little gritty. You've probably heard horror stories about SPAC mergers, those special purpose acquisition companies. A lot of retail investors have lost their shirts on these things in the past because they were betting on companies that weren't ready for prime time. It's a risky move. And honestly, it makes me a little nervous for anyone jumping in without doing their homework. Then there's the competition. It's not just these guys in the game. They're going up against absolute giants like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Boeing. These are the titans of the industry. Plus, they have newer, well-funded rivals like True Anomaly, who reportedly raised $1 billion themselves. It's crowded up there, and only the toughest companies are going to survive this race. But Quantum Space has a clear vision. They aren't just building one-offs. They want to set up manufacturing facilities in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with the goal of churning out one Ranger spacecraft every single quarter by the end of 2028. That's a serious production pace. They're betting that the U.S. Space Force is going to keep demanding more maneuverable, refuelable tech. They are being super blunt about it, too. They're positioning themselves directly against satellites being put up by Russia and China. It's a real-life geopolitical chess match, played out hundreds of miles above the atmosphere. Looking ahead, the timeline is pretty packed. They're aiming to launch their first Ranger prototype by 2027. If everything goes to plan, they might start seeing funded missions under the Andromeda task orders around 2030. Industry analysts will be watching them like a hawk to see if they can actually pull off that manufacturing goal in Tulsa. It could change how we think about space defense entirely. Of course, none of this is guaranteed. They have to actually win those task orders under the Andromeda contract to make this work. If the government decides to go with the big names like Boeing or Lockheed instead, Quantum Space could have a really tough road ahead of them. It's a high-stakes bet on the future of national security. It's just crazy to think that in just a few years, we might have these refuelable scouts patrolling high orbits, constantly watching everything. I find it kind of chilling, but you can't deny that the engineering is impressive. What do you guys think? Is this the future of space defense, or is this just another overhyped tech story that's going to run into a wall? If you found this deep dive into the business of space interesting, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you want to keep up with more stories on how our world is changing, whether it's tech, space, or just the weird stuff happening in the background, make sure you subscribe and turn on those notifications. I've got plenty more to talk about, and I'd love to have you along for the ride. Let me know in the comments what you think about companies building surveillance ships for orbit. Does it make you feel safer, or does it make you a bit uneasy? Let's chat about it. Catch you in the next one.